We'll go on to Mr. Luetkemeyer now for his 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Grant, you made an interesting statement during your testimony that, the only thing holding up our dollar was the faith in it. Would you elaborate just a little bit on that? I have some agreement with you on that, in that I think that our whole system right now seems to be held together by the confidence that we'll be able to pay something back and forth versus the actual collateralization or the actual asset backing it or the actual there being some value there. And I think it would appear to me that the whole system's held together by just the confidence between you and I that we can do business versus the actual asset that's there. Could you elaborate a little bit on your statement and whether you think that's the right perception or not?
Yes, Congressman, I do. To a degree, every monetary system is faith-based. One must have confidence in the quality of the metal if there's collateral behind the currency. Never, I think, until the present day has the world been on a system of pure paper. The dollar is the Coca-Cola of monetary brands. It is, in effect, it's a remarkable achievement in that it is today treated as good money the world over, though the cost of production is essentially nothing. And this is a pretty flattering expression of confidence by the world in America and its institutions. However, faith must be continually refreshed. It is not perpetual. And I think that the very size of this so-called quantitative easing program has crystallized doubts as to the nature of the currency and of its underlying value. In the language of modern finance, the dollar is a derivative. It used to derive its value from the collateral behind it, namely gold. Until 1971, if you were a foreign official institution, you presented your $35 to the Treasury, said you would prefer to have an ounce of gold, and you got it. For the past 40 years, that has been, of course, out the window. So the dollar is, in the language of modern finance, a kind of a non sequitur. It's a derivative without an underlying asset. Sometime recently, a reader of the Financial Times wrote to the editor and said, "Sir," said, the scales have fallen from my eyes. I think I finally understand the meaning of quantitative easing. He said, I think I finally get it. What I no longer understand is the meaning of the word money. And I think that the very size and the audacity and the physics of the project of materializing $600 billion effortlessly has captured the imagination and the doubt of the American people, and indeed of the world's money-holding population. May I close with, to me, the greatest crystallizing, clarifying line about money in American letters, and it happens to be from a novel. It's from one of Laura Ingalls Wilder novels. It's called Farmer Boy, and this is the story of a kid growing up in upstate New York, hard-scrapple dairy country, in which Lou Lehrman campaigned for governor. He carried all of this country, by the way, with huge majorities. But Alonzo, this child, turns up at the county fair, and he asks his father very diffidently for a nickel, and his father miraculously materializes 50 cents from his pocket, and he says to the kid, not wanting to let the moment pass without some moral instruction, he says, "Do you know what this is?" And the boy naturally can't think of anything to say, and the father says, "It's money. Do you know what money is?" The boy, again, is silent, and the father says, "Money is work." And for the past 40 years, money has been a concept. It's been the project of a PhD, and I think the world would like it to be work.
Okay, along those lines, obviously, the QE2 is considering to erode the confidence in our dollar, and right now the dollar is sort of the gold standard around the world. What happens if our dollar goes away, or like some other people are trying to look to a different currency? How does that impact our country, in your view, if it is no longer being standard?
I think we have to answer the question, I think we have to consider our unique privilege in creating a currency that is treated as good money the world over and which only we can lawfully create. This is called the reserve currency privilege, and both Professor Salerno and Lou Lehrman have written really important stuff on this. But the nature of our franchise, of American franchise, is that We pay with our dollar bills created at essentially no marginal cost. These dollars we ship effectively to Walmart's suppliers in Asia. The dollars wind up, because the suppliers don't need it, wind up in the balance sheet of the central banks of our Asian creditors. The Asian creditors turn right around and buy Treasury securities. So it's as if the dollars never left the 50 states. So that's what we have. And if the world were to lose this astounding confidence in the institution of the Federal Reserve, we would lose that franchise, this privilege of seigniorage, this reserve, what was Riff's term, the exorbitant privilege. And we would quickly find that we, like Paraguay and other nations, not uniquely blessed with reserve currency, would have to suffer a lower standard of living.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Congressman, I wonder if I may just add a couple of numbers to the question.
May I interrupt? Yes, you may, but I wanted to advise the members, if they would like, there'll be second rounds of questioning also. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Lerman.
Mr. Grant's comment is so compelling, and I think the numbers themselves are illuminating. The official reserves of foreign central banks held in custody at the Federal Reserve System itself, published in the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve every Thursday evening at 4 o'clock. Those official reserves now amount to $3.5 trillion invested in U.S. government securities, primarily in U.S. Treasuries, the residual in federal agency securities. That just gives you a quantitative estimate of the mechanism that Mr. Grant just described. The best way also, if I might say, to think about this is the credit. This is the credit provided to our government, to the Treasury in deficit, by the purchases by foreign central banks who are mostly mercantilists wanting to maintain undervalued currencies. This is the credit provided to our U.S. government. Until we end the official reserve currency system, and I might add the unlimited discretion of the Federal Reserve to buy $600 billion worth of U.S. government securities in a mere 8-month period, until we end that, all efforts to control the deficit will be unavailing. All of the great conscientious efforts of so many of the congressmen, especially freshman congressmen, Republicans, and I believe some Democrats too, all of them will be unavailing. We have gone through 40 to 50 years of every president declaring that he was going to reduce spending, end the deficit. Even President Reagan, a great president, wound up with deficits running somewhere between 3 and 7% of output. The reason is that the U.S. government grows through the deficit spending which is authorized, and then it is financed in combination by the Federal Reserve System and the official reserves which are accumulated and reinvested in U.S. Treasuries by foreign governments, making limitless credit available. When limitless credit is available even to an individual over a very long period of time, we can be assured that they will make use of it.
Thank you.